Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. I'm Taha, a mobile developer, full stack mobile developer who loves creating mobile applications, including artificial intelligence features. So in this video, we're not going to talk about the artificial intelligence. We're not going to talk about any field or subtree of artificial intelligence. We want to learn about FastAPI. As you know, I'm full stack mobile developer. That means I create the server side of my applications. And in this series of videos, I want to talk about the FastAPI, learn FastAPI together from zero to hero. And in each section of this series that we're going to learn FastAPI, I'm going to create a real-world example at the end of each section, and this will be the strategy of our FastAPI learning. Today, we're kicking off a series where I'm going to show you how to build APIs with FastAPI framework from Python. Super fast, super easy, and each video is going to be around 10 minutes, and I'll make something practical every time. And for the first time we're building a simple to-do list API. You'll see how to set it up, add a task, and get it back. So let's dive in without wasting time. First of all, we have to create our virtual environment in Python. So here I'm going to open up my terminal, and here, so let's close the Explorer panel of Visual Studio Code. Here I'm going to create my virtual environment using, so make sure that you have Python installed on your computer or on your system, and after that run py-m-venv and the name of your virtual environment. For example, I'm gonna choose env. It takes a while, and after a few seconds you can see that your virtual environment with the name that you have been chosen for it is creating. And so right now it's created. This is my virtual environment, and inside Windows operating system, in the PowerShell, I have to activate my virtual environment. So I'm going to say here the name of my virtual environment, env/scripts/activate.ps1, and like you see here, my virtual environment has been successfully activated. And right now I can install any Python library that I want. FastAPI is one of the Python libraries that we have to install it, and after that we can create our APIs as fast as possible, as easy as possible using this library. So here what we're going to do is, first of all, to install the FastAPI. So before that, let's ask ourselves a question. What's FastAPI? It's a Python framework that lets you wipe up APIs crazy fast. It got built-in stuff like validation and docs or documents, so you don't have to mess around too much. And to get started, you'll need Python installed. I prefer, or I suggest you actually to install Python 3.7 or above versions or higher. That works fine with FastAPI. So for that, you can open up your terminal and let's install FastAPI and uRecord, which is the server we're going to use. I mean, the uRecord is the server that we're going to run FastAPI on it, and FastAPI is a Python framework that we have to install as a library or as a Python package or library. Okay, so I hope that everything is clear to you at this point. So I'm going to install FastAPI using pip. I'm going to write down pip install FastAPI and uRecord. Okay, so I hope that right now you know what FastAPI actually is, and also uRecord. I said it before, uRecord is the server that we're going to use it to run FastAPI on it. And cool. That's all for setup. Now let's make a view file called section1. For this series of learning FastAPI using Python, in each series, I'm going to create a new Python file, and as you know, this is our first section. So I created a Python file called section1, and inside this file there's nothing, and we're going to learn about it. Okay, so unfortunately there's just 5 minutes left, and I'm trying to complete the section or in just 10 minutes. So let's go faster. So first of all, we need to import FastAPI that we have installed on our virtual environment that we have created using Python. Okay, so I'm going to import FastAPI. I'm going to say import FastAPI. From FastAPI, I'm going to import FastAPI. Okay, the reason Visual Studio Code doesn't suggest me the FastAPI class, and here shows me a warning called import FastAPI could not be resolved, is because I didn't set my virtual environment here for it. I'm in this virtual environment, and now when I set it, you can see that it actually detects the FastAPI from my virtual environment that I'm working on it, and now it completely installed and I can access it without any problem. Okay, so that's all. And here right now what we have to do is just create a variable called app and initialize or instantiate our FastAPI class and give the value inside a variable called app. Okay, this app is our API. Now let's add a simple endpoint, just a hello world, to test it. So we have to just create our endpoint. How we can create an endpoint? Just we have to add @ and the name of our variable, which is right now is our API, and then the HTTP method that we're going to use. Okay, so I'm going to add @ and then the name of our variable, and just say get HTTP method, and here we have to define the path that we can access this specific endpoint. Okay, so with that, right now when we're going to explore this path, we have to define a function that this function is going to be triggered when a user explored this path on our API on our server. Okay, so here I'm going to define a function, for example a function called read routes, and this function returns a map or a dictionary with the key of hello and value of word. So we're going to see this response, this JSON response, when we just called or explored this URL on our server, on our FastAPI, on our local host. Okay, so that's all for now, and we can save this. So here we have an error, we don't need this. Okay, so now we don't have any error, so we can save that, and then back in our terminal, and here let's clear everything to make everything clear to understand. And right now we have to run our server to see the result. Okay, so how we can run our server, I told you before, right now we're using FastAPI. Okay, FastAPI runs on UV core server. Okay, so we have to run or start up our server, our UV core server, that we can see our endpoint that we have created using our API, I mean the FastAPI framework using Python. How we can do that? It's very simple. We have just to call UV core, and here the name of our file. Okay, so this is the section1, where I'm going to say section UV core section1, and the name of our API, which is right now it's app. Okay, so I'm going to say section1 app -- reload, and right there you can see that UV core server is running on this URL, which is our local host, and we can access this endpoint that we have created using just a simple /. We can explore it, and we expect to run this function when we explore this endpoint on our server and see this result that we're going to return inside this function at this endpoint using the get HTTP method. Okay, so let's see what we have. So like you see here, I explored this URL, the localhost, on port 8000, and like you see here, I have an endpoint, and I can access my endpoint with the get HTTP method, and it's pretty cool, pretty fast, pretty easy. And right now we created an API using FastAPI framework with Python programming language, and we have just explored our first endpoint that we created in our API. As you see here, if I go to this URL, to this endpoint, and just type / this function, the function read root, has been triggered, called, and returned the value that we expect. Okay, so this is pretty cool and awesome, doesn't it? I think that's enough for this section. You learned how to create your API, how to set it up, how to create your first endpoint, and how to explore it and start your UV Core server.